Hi, I'm Nancy with Creative Cuts. Thanks for joining me. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create an open line that Make the Cut will be able to cut just using the basic shapes that come inside of Make the Cut. So I've already placed a square on my mat, and this just represents the project that I'm making, so it could be a card or any other kind of papercraft project. So to start off, I need to decide what shape I want my open path to be, and for this particular project I'm going to make just a curved line. So I need to come up to Import Basic Shapes. Now I'm doing this tutorial in Make the Cut 3.0, which is the newest beta version. If you're still working in a 2.0 version, then you'll be looking for the gear icon, which is over towards the left-hand side of the menu. So I'm going to click on Import Basic Shapes, and I'm going to bring in an oval. That's the shape that I want my open line to be. And I'm just quickly going to put it onto its own layer just to make it a little bit easier to work with. So to do that, I'm just going to come over to Layer Properties and click on Selection to New Layer. Now you can see that I have the square on one layer and the oval on another. The next step is just to resize the oval. Now my open line is just going to be half of this oval, so that's really what I'm worried about. I'm just going to resize it and position it where I want it, and that looks pretty good right about there. And then next I need to add a shadow layer to this. So there's a couple ways that I can do that. One is to come over to the left-hand menu here and click on Shadow Layer, and that's just in the new 3.0 version. The other way is to right-click on the oval, come down to Shape Magic, and then to Shadow Layer. Now this is the dialog box for adding a shadow, and you can see you've got a slider bar at the top here, and as I slide it to the right, the shadow, which is the outer line, gets wider and wider. For this particular technique, I want a very narrow shadow, so I can either leave it at 0.0025, maybe bump it up to 0.0075, but certainly no wider than that. So I'm actually just going to leave it at 0.0025 and click on Accept. And now it's difficult to see on the mat because the shadow layer is so small, but if you look over in your layer properties, you'll see that you have your original oval, and now you have a second layer that's your shadow layer. Next, I need to join these two layers together. Now, because the shadow layer is so narrow, it's going to be difficult just to select it by clicking on it. So I'm going to select both layers at the same time just by clicking and dragging around the outside of both layers, just like that. Now I'm going to come over to the side and click on Join. And now you can see that what we have is a very narrow black outline. So what the join did was actually take the top layer, the original oval, out of the shadow layer and just left us with this little outline. So the next thing that we need to do now is join this outline with the overall shape. So in this case it's the square, but when you're doing this it's whatever project you're creating. So I'm going to select both of these, again just by clicking and dragging around the outside of both objects, and now you can see that they're both selected. And again I'm going to come over to Join. Now because the top item was black, when it joined it, it turned everything black, and that's fine. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here and show you what has happened. So you can see now what looks like a white outline, but if it was a little bit wider, you'd see that you could actually see the lines on the mat through that. So that's actually an open space. Now the final step in this is to close off the parts of this line that I don't want to cut. Right now if I try cutting this, what will happen is it will cut out a square, and then it will cut the oval out of that square. But what I want it to do is just cut half of the oval, so I've just got a slit in my square. So I'm going to come up to Import Basic Shapes one more time, and I'm just going to select another square. And there it is right there. Now I'm just going to put this onto its own layer and change the color just so it's a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to come down here and click on Selection to New Layer, and I'll change this to orange. So now it's nice and easy to see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to position the square over top of the parts of the oval that I don't want to cut. So you can see that what's on the right here, that's what I want to be cutting. And I'm just going to reposition the oval and make sure that it's sized so that it covers up everything that you don't want to cut. And now I'm going to, with the square selected there, I'm going to select my base project as well, just by holding down Shift. So I've got them both selected. And now I'm going to come down to Weld. And what that will do is weld the orange shape that I had just created onto my project base. And now you can see all that I've got left is this little half oval. And when I cut that, it's just going to cut a little slit in my project.